code name for the team that won't quit. Its purpose to force the normies to swallow the red pill against the narrative. A ruthless force determined to keep everyone asleep. They broadcast the truth on Rumble, high clouds dropping red pills every week. Overwatch and the Guardian. The narrative is weak.
We can't let it end like this.
It's too late.
Defenders of the Overwatch and the Guardian. Overwatch and the Guardian. Overwatch and the Guardian. Overwatch and the Guardian.
All right. What's up, brother? How we doing?
Let me switch sides right here. So we're with our respective characters. Doing good, man. Coming from a spicy show.
Oh, that show was hot. I watched some of it.
It was spicy. I was like, this is the way you work up your Thursday night. So, but no, excited about this show. Excited about our surprise guests at the front end of this. Excited for the conversation we're going to be having tonight. Got my coffee. It's been a couple of days without a coffee, so I have my coffee tonight. So I'm stoked about that, man. Anything you want to say before we kick this off?
Well, it's an interesting time to be alive. There's a lot going on in the world, but we're kind of transitioning this show. Sometimes we'll talk politics, sometimes we'll talk a little bit other things. Tonight we're going to go a different route. We're going to take a break from what's going on in the world, and we're just going to delve into various different thoughts and ideas and conspiracies and that type of thing. So that's going to be pretty cool. We got a good friend that's going to be joining us. We got a sponsor to this show. Someone actually sponsored our show. Can you believe that? Which is actually really cool, because typically we deal with affiliates, but tonight we actually got a sponsor. That's actually really cool. So we're going to bring him in a few minutes. But yeah, guys, I'm glad you guys are liking the show. If you guys are liking the show, hit that thumbs up and make sure you're following and subscribing, because I know that most people that are just new here probably watch that intro and are like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, this is fun.
It is fun. And I'm glad we're going to kind of deviate, because I could use the break tonight, bro. Whoo! Woosah. Woosah. Let's get to some of our Rumble affiliates, and then after that we will bring our surprise guest on. So Rumble's been taking care of us, folks. You know that they've been taking care of us. So with that, let me bring this up on the screen for you guys. You'll see it over my face, and I'm sure Josh will be doing one as well. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support creators you actually believe in, like these two guys, you can use the Rumble app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when the institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics, it's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. And if you guys are watching on my platform, you'll see that in the live chat. If you're watching the replay, you'll see that down in the description, as well as for Josh. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, no, we're good. We'll run some here in a little bit. I got the same one, but I'll run that later, and everything else I have isn't populated yet. So we'll take care of that later. But let's go ahead and bring in our guest, our sponsor of the show tonight. And I don't see the little icon. Where's the little icon, Alpha?
I got him, and I'm bringing it up now. I was keeping it as a surprise for when he got here. I was keeping it as a surprise.
Oh, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for that nice little thing. The intro was just fantastic. That was worth the price of admission right there. You put a lot of effort into that. That was cool. But yeah, it's so great to be on here. I know Josh, I'm on Josh's show a lot, so Josh's audience knows a lot about Good Brew, and so many of them use it. And so I'm happy to be on to talk about it with your audience, Alpha, who I don't think it's heard as much about Good Brew and all the important aspects of gut health and what that does, for us overall. And your topics of tonight, I assume, are going to be a lot about more of these general things that have happened in society and in our cultures. And there's nothing bigger than the travesties that have happened with our health and the medical systems and the way that we've been misled about what is, are fundamental to not only ourselves individually, but also as a society. I mean, a healthy society is a much more independent and freedom-minded society, a society that is controlled through health, and the healthcare system is one that's not going to be very independent. I mean, that would be right at the top of the list of how a tyrant would want to control his population, and subjects would be to control the health of that population. So we've gone way off track there in terms of our society, and gut health, as Hippocrates, 2,500 years ago recognized, is at the center of all human health. And it's not a woo-woo thing. I mean, there's massive amounts of science behind this now, but I don't know that the modern medical community, many doctors do talk about the importance of gut health, but the medical system as a whole has not been very forthcoming with the importance of these things that we can do for ourselves. So anyhow, with that, the microbiome and gut health and the things that you need to do to support that are multiple things. But one of the things you can do is take a probiotic, and you can take a probiotic that has 25 clinical studies behind it in combination with a very good prebiotic, a natural organic prebiotic fiber. And in our product, Good Brew, we have no preservatives, no additives. We just have an organic symbiotic product with prebiotic fiber, inulin fiber, and a probiotic that is proven to survive the stomach acid, which most probiotics die on the shelf or in the stomach, and our Bacillus coagulans survives to germinate in the lower intestine. It supports the rest of the gut microbiome. So.
Yeah. So, for everybody out there, if you're new to Gabe, if you're hearing Gabe for the first time on Alpha's channel, or even my channel, the Red Pill Project, you're going to see some links scrolling below. And if you guys are interested in getting Good Brew, and we're going to talk about what it helps, how it helps you here in just a few minutes. But if you're interested, if you're in Alpha's audience, use that first link, goodbrew.com/alpha. If you are in my audience, you can use goodbrew.com/redpill. So just making sure that everybody knows which link to go and check this out. This episode, by the way, for everybody out there, I've been using this product for what now? 6, 7 months, 8 months now. I use it every day. I throw it in my coffee. It's tasteless, so you don't even notice it. You can throw it into any drink. It's not affected by temperature, and it absolutely fixes your gut. I assure you, it's an amazing product. It was interesting because one of the stories I tell, a true story, my neighbor Alex, I told him I did a podcast, and so he kind of hunted me down and didn't tell me he was listening to it, but he listened to it on Apple Podcasts. And he came back and goes, "Hey, so I was listening to your show the other night, and you got that guy on there, Gabe, with the gut health." And he goes, "I've had this problem with my gut for years." He goes, "I ordered some, and I've been taking it. Dude, it cleared up." And he buys it every month. So just, Gabe, I'd like you to talk a little bit about how Good Brew kind of can help people.
And before you go there, Gabe, I want to add on something that you said, that Josh said about the tasteless, just so people know. If you run out of your favorite healthy coffee, like I did, you can throw it in with some freshly squeezed orange juice or lemonade or even water and you're solid, like you're still not going to taste it. Like you're good to go on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it has no, if you were to put some on your finger and taste it, it'd be mildly sweet. So it doesn't affect the flavor of your coffee or juice or yogurt or whatever you want to put it in. And more importantly, it survives. And Bacillus coagulans is a spore-forming probiotic. And I think this is really important to think about how Mother Nature takes care of us. So most of the probiotics that we have, the colonizing microbes, come from our mothers at birth. And they're extremely important. But ever since the modern world has added antibiotics and preservatives and these things to our environment, our gut microbiome has become much less diverse over every generation. But there is spore-forming probiotics that we would get as scavengers and bacillus, digging up things from the soil that really help to support and rebuild that microbiome in the lower intestine. And Bacillus coagulans is one of those probiotics. So it produces the metabolites, not only that help to increase protein utilization by 20%, improve immune function, and all of these things that it's been clinically studied to show to do on its own, but it's also producing metabolites that then build up the rest of the gut microbiome. So in our case, we have two groups of people, and there's an overlap, and that's people who have a specific gut health issue that they're trying to solve, and people who want to just optimize their health. And then, of course, there's an overlap, and our product is great for both of those groups of people. And we were blown away by how many people with acid reflux and chronic constipation who have suffered for years and years with these problems have given us testimonials that this has been the thing that's helped them. And we're talking, nurses and doctors and all kinds of people who know the medical system and know these, all the options. We have a functional medicine doctor here in Northern Colorado, one of the most well-respected functional medicine doctors in the area. He and his wife were having gut health issues, and we met them at this past summer at a conference, and he got our product. And it was only like 2 weeks later, he was contacting me asking for a discount that he could offer to all of his clients because it helped him so much. And that's the great thing about Good Brew, is that it's not only proven in and of itself with clinical studies to show benefits itself, but it's also foundational in that it's helping to boost the rest of your gut microbiome. So even if you're taking other probiotics that have a hard time surviving on the shelf and through the stomach, it's going to assist those as well. It's not as though you can't take other probiotics and our product together. And our product is really based on the way nature works. Most of the fibers on the market are not natural fibers. They're selling them as prebiotics and these sorts of things, but they're wheat dextrins and corn dextrins. They're not that's not you don't get those from nature. So how do we even know that our gut microbiome is really utilizing them in the way that it's supposed to? Inulin fiber.
Let me highlight that part you just said right there, Gabe. So this is not a corn-based or a soy-based product.
No, it is inulin fiber, and inulin fiber is the kind of fiber that we get in fruits and things like that. And so there was this, we made the point of using that as our fiber because it is the right kind of fiber to be using. But in addition to that, now there's lots of studies on this, but there was a great study that just was done and the paper was released just a few months ago showing that inulin fiber, just the fiber itself, it supports the kind of microbiome that breaks down fructose and sugars. And not only does it break them down so they don't get to the liver, and the study showed reduction in fatty liver disease, better insulin sensitivity. These are very major things to our health. But it also showed that when it broke these microbes that developed because of they were feeding on inulin, we're also breaking these sugars down into good amino acids, into glycine and serine, which was then supporting the liver function and in the production of glutathione, which is a very important antioxidant that the liver produces to regulate things. So your gut is everything. And the microbiome produces 95% of the short chain fatty acids. We only get about 5% of them from the food we eat, and we don't get any of them. We don't produce any of them endogenously. So the microbiome is responsible for producing these short chain fatty acids, which are the key energy source for proper cellular function, not only in the digestive system, but throughout the body because they circulate through the body, but especially in the colon. And we see this huge rise in colon cancer. A lot of that has to do with dysbiosis. And we have all this dysbiosis because of all these things that we're putting into our system through medicine, antibiotics, pesticides, preservatives, processed foods. All of these things are just ruining our gut microbiome, which is then leading to all these other diseases, especially inflammatory diseases. So what happens when your body doesn't have the right kind of microbiome and you get into dysbiosis? Now these cells aren't functioning properly in the digestive system and in the intestines, and the cells start to get gaps in them. They're supposed to be tightly joined. It's called a tight junction between the cells. They get gaps in them, and we get what's called leaky gut. And things start getting out of the digestive system and out of the intestines that are supposed to be in the intestines to get outside of the digestive tract, and the immune system attacks them, and especially proteins. So our body does not digest whole proteins. So if you're taking collagen or something like that, it has to be digested down into peptides and amino acids for the body to use them. When we have these undigested proteins, and then we also have this dysfunction in the gut, which is largely because it's all cyclical, right? Like, so if you don't have the right microbiome, you're not breaking down the proteins properly, and then you're also not having good cellular activity, metabolism in the gut. And so now you have these things leaking out of the gut, immune system's attacking this, things get worse and they spiral out of control, and it gets into all these autoimmune diseases, and even linked to now directly or linked to like dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and many, many other diseases. So, this whole idea that everything starts in the gut is it's not hyperbole. It's really based on fact and science. So Good Brew is a great way to add a real foundational aspect to your gut and your gut health every day. And it survives the coffee. We're the only probiotic that's got the research behind it to survive in coffee. And it's not because there's anything, it's a natural probiotic, but this strain that's been cultured has just been studied and proven, not only it's the stomach is actually a more harsh environment than coffee is, but so it's proven to work in coffee. It doesn't affect the flavor of your coffee. And another thing is that because you use it by a scoop, you actually get enough prebiotic fiber to make a difference. So even in these capsules that say they have prebiotic fiber, there's not enough room physically in the capsule to hold enough fiber to be a significant amount of fiber. So because you can use Good Brew by the scoop, not only are you getting something that's really easy to add into your routine, but you're also getting a significant amount of this prebiotic fiber, which is key. It's a key part of it, the fiber and the probiotic together. And even more importantly too, is that you can adjust it to what works for you. And everybody's different. And we always tell people, start really small and then adjust and see where you end up.
Yes.
Exactly. A lot of people just use one scoop. I mean, even people with really serious digestive health issues just have used one scoop and found that's what works for them. I use 2 scoops a day. So if you get a container like this that's based on 75 servings, which we use as 2 scoops, but you're a 1 scooper, you get 150 servings in this, and we price it really well. We could price it a lot more, but we know we have so many people who reuse it and rely on it. Our aim of our business model is to make it something that people can continue to use, not something that we just charge a whole lot for one time. So it's already priced really well. But if you use the discount code RedPill or the discount code Alpha at checkout, or the / either way you get to it, you get another 10% off of this. And we're supporting, and obviously that we love to do this because we're supporting you guys, and it all works together. So use Alpha or RedPill at checkout for 10% off, or just use the / RedPill or / Alpha, get 10% off. And we also have a special one there tonight. So if you're somebody who's been using Good Brew, the large is always a really good deal. And we always also have permanently a really, really good deal, which is the 3-pack of larges. So a lot of people, rather than doing a subscription, will just buy the 3-pack of large, and then they know when they're getting low, they'll just order that again, and it lasts a really long time. But if you're a first-time customer, I recommend, just using a large or less, or a medium. And tonight we have also a special on the website. I don't know if you guys can pull that up or not. If you can, it's okay. If you can't, it's okay. But we have the 2 mediums. So there's a special on the website to get 2 mediums at a really discounted price. That's a really good place to start if you've never tried the product before. Those 2 mediums allow you, or if you're sharing it with somebody, It's a great way to share it with somebody. So we have the two mediums, which you kind of basically base it about the same price as per scoop as the large, but it's only, it's like 120 scoops. So that's a great thing there.
Okay,
And then
1 second.
go ahead.
1 second. So someone asked a question, is there any natural quote unquote flavors in there? And if you actually scroll down on the website, you're going to see all the ingredients right there: organic inulin and bacillus coagulans. That's it. There's nothing else added in there. There's no additives, no extra flavor enhancers or anything like that. So just for those questions out there. And then someone asked, what was it? What is the result of taking too much? You go visit Uncle John. So you visit Uncle John quite a bit.
He's talking about the porcelain throne, and you will find it. Like for me, I'm at about a scoop and a half is where I'm at, and you'll figure it out pretty quick where the perfect one is for you, and you will feel good. There was somebody that brought something up, and we talked about this the last time we talked, Gabe. For those people that like iced coffee or a cold drink, there's a method to this because of the cold drink. Do you want to cover that real quick?
Yeah, definitely. Put it in. Even if you're drinking hot coffee, put it in first. That way it dissolves and you don't get the steam on your scoop. But if you're using it with ice, like anything, the ice will freeze it before it dissolves. So mix it in before you add the ice, or mix in a little bit of hot water. Go ahead and stir it into something hot or some hot coffee, just a little bit, and get it mixed in, and then make the ice drink with it. If you're doing it in a smoothie, the only thing I would say about the smoothie is, this is just me anecdotally thinking about it, is put it in at the end. Don't put it at the beginning if you're using a blender, because the shear force of a blender is different than heat or other things. That's a different kind of force and stress. And so I would only put it in at the end of blending, so just in those last few pulses. And don't put it in before a filter. So if you're making juice or anything like that, put it in after a filter so that you're not filtering out anything. Yeah. We have people put it in yogurt and stuff too. And even with people with acid reflux, we have people tell us that they sometimes will take it just dry. So there's something with that.
Yeah. What other deals do you have going on out there, Gabe?
So we have the two mediums, and then we also have, and I want to ask you guys, so what I was thinking, we have 25. Now this is something else will really, I think, add to your conversations tonight. This is one of the biggest massacres in human history, was the COVID vaccine. And Ed Dowd, who is just a world-renowned financial person, wrote this, actually there was 2 editions of this, Cause Unknown. And he looked at the actuary data, and you can look in the actuary data and you can see when the vaccine rolled out, you can see all the deaths that started in heart disease that started happening amongst cohorts of people that never had these levels of problems. Particularly, obviously we know with older people, but with younger people really tell the story. And he's got all the data in here from the actuary data. You can't argue with it. And it's just this, there was something like 20 years worth of heart damage, disease, and sudden deaths amongst young people that happened in like a year. So tell me, this is a real deal here, and this is going to affect it's going to affect us all. But imagine the generation of children who grew up during this period of time, especially. This is going to, this has changed the whole trajectory of their entire lives. Yeah. The things that we did in the schools and all.
We still don't know the repercussions of it. So.
Oh yeah, we still know it's still there. I mean, there were scientists and people. Well, I forget his name, the guy who died. Who was so outspoken about it. Gosh, I wish I could think of his name. Yeah, probably. But he, he was saying he was like put in a time. He was at like a time, ticking clock on what was going to happen in 5 years after the vaccine and that sort of thing. So you're right, Josh. I mean, we just still don't even know how it's affecting us.
Well, there was Gert Vandenbosch, who was one of the originals that came out about that. He is still alive, but I think you're referring to what is his name? He was a Nobel laureate, and he died a few years ago.
Yeah, and so I mean, he said that he was saying they were going to come after him. But anyhow, we have 25 of these books. I was just going to give them to the first 25 orders, unless you guys have a better idea or somebody wants to make people with a comment or something. But there's 25 of them. If you have a better strategy for how to allow people to get these, we're happy to get them in people's hands. And it makes a great. This is a book. I want to say something else about this book. There's certain books in history. This is a great coffee table book and that sort of thing. But there's certain things in history that they sit around. And over the time that they're sitting around a house or here or there, people pick them up and they read them, and maybe somebody's grandkids or children pick these books, and they need to read these kinds of books because they tell a story of how governments and tyrants and people have been doing this to humans for forever, and they never.
He's talking about Dr. Zelenka. Dr. Zelenka. Dr. Zelenka is who you're talking about. But also there's Luc Montagnier, Dr. Luc Montagnier, who was very outspoken about the vaccine and the COVID. But so you got that book's going to the first 25.
Yeah, that's the best way I can think to do it. I'll just look at the orders that use alpha or red pill, and the first 25 of them will also get this book sent to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
There you go. But yes, and we have, and Josh, I get so much research and everything coming at me. When we first started talking about good brew and gut health, we talked about some really specific things that I think like the gut lining. Your gut lining is all supported by the gut microbiome. The large intestine is an organ that we have in our body the role of the large intestine is to support the gut microbiome. That's the role. So we have an organ that God gave us specifically for housing our gut microbiome. That's how important it is to our health. B vitamin production. The gut microbiome doesn't only help us get B vitamins from the food we're eating, but they actually make B vitamins. Calcium absorption. This is extremely important that our gut microbiome and also inulin fiber play a major role in getting calcium freed up from the food that we're eating, but also in how it gets transported across the lining of the intestines. It plays a role in actually getting it across. Same thing with many other nutrients. So I don't know, we can talk and talk and talk. I mean, we always covered these subjects, and I think as I get more information, it's harder for me to actually talk about it because there's so many different things. But muscle recovery is another one. Our Bacillus coagulans, the strain of Bacillus coagulans that's shown to increase protein utilization with clinical studies that's in Good Brew, has also been shown to help, say, athletes recover in muscle recovery. And I noticed that myself, something that I noticed, and it's some of those things that just sort of dawns on you. I'm like, why am I working out and not feeling as sore? And I was like, oh yeah, it's the protein utilization. But also as we get older, proteins are not just for muscles. Our whole body runs on proteins and peptides and amino acids. Everything does. And so protein utilization is very important for all functions of the body. And also, as we get older, one of the things they know about aging is that it's harder for us to uptake minerals and proteins. And those proteins utilization as we get older, it leads to muscle, fatigue, and then frailty, and then falls and that sort of thing. So it plays a huge role everywhere. I know you guys got a lot to talk about. And I really appreciate it. But Gabe, so happy to be a sponsor and actually have the Good Brew logo right there, man. Great job, So
love it, Gabe. Love it, Gabe. Guys, you can go over to those links right there. They're scrolling below. For Alpha, just go to goodbrew.com/alpha. And by the way, Brew is spelled BRU, so it's GOODBRU.com/alpha ALPHA. Or Josh's website there, goodbrew.com/redpill. Gabe, appreciate you joining us, man. We're gonna have to definitely have you back on. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a great evening. Thank you.
You too. Take care. Bye.
There's a lot of people watching the show right now. I would challenge you to not only go visit those links, but share them on your social media. There's so many benefits that you guys will recognize this from things like bad breath. I mean, it's just, there's an assortment of things. You will be grateful for it. And then again, make sure you let other people know in the process of that. And again, you'll find those links down in the descriptions below on our respective platforms as well.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
It is. It's great stuff. And so appreciate you, Gabe. Thank you so much. And for everybody out there who's already supporting us by going over there and getting that great product, appreciate you guys. So what I'm going to do right now is my stuff just populated. So I'm going to go ahead and knock this one out real quick. It's the same one that we just talked about. And what we do next time, Alpha, is one of us just has to say it and we both click it. That's what I just realized.
You have to explain that to me later.
So I'm going to read this one, but next time both of us click it and just one of us says it.
Oh,
That's all you have.
I'm tracking.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I understand you. I'll confirm after the show, but I think I'm understanding it.
Look, they can freeze your account, shut off your cards, lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you can direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. And appreciate that, Rumble. And yeah, Rumble's got a good thing going on with that Rumble Wallet, people. And by the way, if you remember when gold skyrocketed to like $5,700 and then it dropped down the next day, if you wanted to sell it and take profit, you would have been able to do that with Tether Gold. Just an FYI. But you can't do that with your gold in your IRA and stuff. So just keep that in mind.
FYI.
But Alpha, what the hell are we talking about tonight?
So this one's, man, I like this one. I'm excited because I know you're going to educate not just me, but the entire audience on this.
I thought you were going to educate me on this.
The Mandela Effect. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, if you're unfamiliar with it, you know, we're going to talk about it right now. There's a lot of people. It takes us into the conversation of parallel timelines, parallel realities, alternate universes. Like it gets pretty wild pretty fast. And so if you're like the Mandela Effect, I've heard about that before. What are you guys talking about? Let me bring up some examples that you're like, oh, Nelson Mandela. There are people that are like, no, that guy died a very long time ago. And other people are like, no, he didn't. He just died. It just got reported in the news. And people go as far back as like, no, like he died a long time ago. And I remember the president said something at his funeral, like very detailed, specific about
it. So some people remember him actually dying in prison. Mm-hmm. And then many others remember him dying in the mid 2000s. And so this is kind of what coined the term Mandela Effect. Because people began noticing subtle differences in reality after this. Another one is the what was the name? Now I'm going to forget the name of the movie, but it's the Sinbad movie. I can't even remember the name of it.
I'm trying to. What the heck was it? Wasn't it called Sin? Was it? No, it wasn't called Sinbad, or was it?
No, it was. 1 second, I'll find out.
Here, you look it up. While you look it up, I'll talk about another real popular one everybody remembers. Is it the Bernstein Bears? Or is it the Bernstein Bears? I'm from a large Shazam. It was Shazam. And dude, you know we watch that like every week with like our friends and our cousins.
Yep. But it was actually Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal. And that's just racist that you get the black people mixed up with the wrong letters.
It was Sinbad, bro.
It was. Dude, I remember Sinbad.
Because it was Sinbad.
So my thing, and for everybody out there, if you're wondering what the Mandela Effect is, there's tons of different. I was looking for a video short, the kind of maybe this one will work. Yeah, let me pull this one up. Maybe we can play this real quick because this will help people get an understanding of the various different Mandela effects and what they are and what we're talking about. And then I'm going to tell you my experience with Mandela effects.
Effects that you probably don't remember. So many people remember Jackie Robinson as breaking the MLB color barrier, but it was actually William White in 1879 who was the first black baseball player. However, he was a closeted black man, and the first openly black baseball player was Moses Walker in 1883. Quick, how many people were in the car when JFK was shot? Not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 people. It was a modified car with 3 rows for his wife, 2 Secret Service agents, and the Texas governor and his wife. You probably remember Shaggy as having a protruding Adam's apple, but he doesn't actually have one at all. The Raisin Bran son has glasses, right? Wrong, he doesn't actually have any glasses. Many people remember the Mona Lisa to be fairly stoic in expression with a slight smirk on her face. She actually sports a pretty noticeable smile. Popular to contrary belief, this isn't the Starbucks logo because she actually has a star where the tip of the crown supposedly is. And lastly, you see this every day, but what's the correct order for a traffic light? If you said green on top, you'd be wrong. Pretty cool, right? Here are some Mandela effects.
So that's just a few, right? And I mean, you got the Monopoly Man and the monocle.
Dude, you're in my headspace already, bro, with the traffic lights.
So you got Jiffy. You remember Jiffy peanut butter?
Josh, before you go to Jiffy, dude, I was a cop for 14 years. The green is on top.
Nope, green's in the bottom. I just noticed that today.
Listen, bro, I sat at intersections waiting for people to run the light. I've never heard that one before. That one right there just got me twisted. No, the green light's on top. Let me know in the chat.
The cornucopia and Fruit of the Loom.
Well, listen, so like with the cornucopia, Fruit of the Loom, Bernstein's, Jiffy, like I'm with those. I'm like, maybe what? You're not going to get me on the traffic light one. 14 years, Josh. 14 years of 12-hour shifts, driving through intersections, parking.
So let me ask you this, and maybe this will help spark your memory. Where is the red?
On the bottom.
Really?
Yes.
We're from different realities, bro. Mine has always been green on the bottom, red on top. Because red on top is the hierarchy, right? Stop, yield, go.
Man, I'm
gonna remember learning that. Stop, yield, go.
I'm gonna go drive through an intersection after the show, bro. If you guys made me jump timelines with this specific show, and that's where I want to get into this with Josh eventually, is can you make yourself timeline hop? And the reason
we'll talk about that here in a minute. So
because here's the thing, I'm telling you,
Pikachu?
Yes, of course.
Does Pikachu? Which one is Pikachu? Left or right?
One on the left.
One on the left. Nope, it's the one on the right. Pikachu does not have a black mark on his tail.
Nope. No.
So,
listen, are we talking? Here's where I want to go with this. I want to have fun with some of these examples. And if you can find the Bernstein Bears one, man, I'd really appreciate that because, you know, a lot of our generation, a lot of you Generation Xers will remember Bernstein, but it's yes. See, that's Bernstein, but I remember Bernstein. It's EIN at the end.
So I remember I have all of these books from when I was a kid, and it's the Bernstein Bears. Bernstein Bears, not Stain.
Steen, I agree. And the thing is we read these things over and over and over. And but here's the thing, you will get people that do remember it the other way. And you know, this is one of the biggest ones right here.
Monocle, absolutely a monocle.
100% monocle.
No monocle.
If you go to Target tonight, folks, and you buy Monopoly, there's no monocle.
Nope.
And for those of you say, well, maybe they just changed the logos in the stores. Go search out any photos to try to find it. And you won't.
Let me ask you this. In Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, when Luke is there and Vader's got his hand out.
Oh, I know this one.
You believe Luke. He says, Luke, I am your father. He says, no, I am your father.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Listen, I'm not a Star Wars nerd. That's 100% CanCon, but we've all seen that clip. And he never says no.
So in Snow White and the Seven,
goes like this. I'll do it. Luke, I am your father. It's his breathing in the machine.
So what a psychologist or a sociologist would actually say is that what you are remembering is not the actual scene from the movie, but the reoccurrence of replaying it over and over and over again. So think the movie came out in 1983. So your brothers, your father, your family go about and you play around in the backyard and you observe them playing in the background. Luke, I am your father. And you see this and then you replicate that. And that becomes the consistent memory of what actually happened. So this is what a lot of people are saying actually it was. And with like the Monopoly Man, there was like a banker with a monocle that was very popular during those same times that people would associate with Monopoly, but wasn't associated with Monopoly. So people try to do like this cross correlation. This is what a psychologist or a sociologist is misremembering. But in all honesty, I got a very good grip on reality, and I've done this for a very long time. I observe my reality very, very precisely. Even to this day, I notice subtle changes. For instance, I have my military uniforms, right? I still got every single one of my military uniforms. I'll go back, and I was stationed in Washington, D.C. for quite a few years. And so you got your rocker and you got your patches for your command. And I'm like sitting there looking, I'm like, that's not my command patch. That's not my command patch. That's not what it looks like. But there it is. Like, that's not how I remember it. I remember it being like this. And you go search the internet, like, where the hell is it? But then you got like Fruit of the Loom and the cornucopia. It absolutely had a cornucopia.
It did. It did.
And then Febreze, you remember Febreze, the spray?
I do. What are they? I didn't even know Febreze had one.
How many E's in Febreze? Or
Two.
how do you spell Febreze?
Well, I guess 3 would be, you're going to put me on the spot here. Febreze. So 4 E's.
Just one E in the middle. FBRBREZE. Looney Tunes.
Double O's.
How do you spell tunes?
TOONS.
Nope. TUNES.
No, I know that's the way they show it now, but I know for a fact that's not how I remember.
I know. I'm 100% agree with you. So the question then, because I know everybody out there has seen these.
I want to go back to the example. So if they want to say the, Luke, I am your father one is repeated, maybe there's an argument to be made there. But I know one that you weren't out there on the playground doing this all the time, and we all still remember it. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of them all? And they're saying it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
So you can take that from a movie or from a book where someone is misplaying it or misrepresenting it. Mirror, mirror on the wall, when she's actually saying magic mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest one of them all?
Nope. I'm just not buying it. So are we talking alternate realities? Are we talking, are we talking simulation? So here's something that I've heard, and actually I kind of like this theory, and I'm open to any of it, and I look forward to how this unfolds. When I was researching this way back in the day, one of the theories that I came across is, for alternate realities, is that every time we come to a juncture where we make a choice and we make that choice, well, there's still the reality of the other choice. So every choice branches out in a different direction. And then down that timeline, there's a choice. And then that branches out. So you get this like whole root system of all these different choices. And there's all these different realities that exist.
So in physics, in quantum physics and theoretical physics, there are these ideas of convergent and divergent time delineation, right? To where it branches off. There's a great popular Fox show back in the day called Fringe that was actually about that, which you should probably watch. There's also the multi-universe theory. Instead of just different timelines, is that there's an infinite possibilities of every probable moment, and those infinite possibilities spawn new probabilistic universes. And this is actually a really good theory. This is really cool theory, actually, because and I'm going to get a little personal here for everybody, because this is actually a real story that really, really happened to me. After my father passed away, I kept on having a recurring dream. And the recurring dream was my father driving down the street and hitting a tree and getting ejected from the car. And then waking up in his bed, oh shit, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so I tell my older brothers this, and they go, dude, dad got in a car accident when he had no seatbelt on, hit a tree and got ejected from the car, right? I'm like, I did not know that. But my dream correlated to a theory. And I honestly think that this was my father talking to me. Is that, and I know there's a lot of religious people out there, but just use your imagination for a little while and take a walk in the wild side, because this is going to get a little fringy. This is my theory. You remember that episode of Rick and Morty where he puts the headset on him and he plays the game of life, and he goes out there and he lives this 68 years of the one guy, and he comes out and he goes, where's my wife? Where's my kids? And he's like, oh my God, you lasted 68 years. That's like a new record. And he was only in there for 5 minutes. It's the same idea, is that when we die in this life, you don't actually die. You wake up in some other time frame to where you're still alive. So for instance, something horrible happens to someone, and tomorrow that stranger person goes out there and gets in a car accident and dies. Everybody in this timeline, in this delineation of time and reality, that person's gone. But for that person, they're waking up in their bed out of a nightmare going, holy shit, what just happened? And maybe it's 2 years down the road and they have memories of the last 2 years. And like, I remember something completely different, but I'm coming up from a dream. So I guess it was just a dream, and they just go about their life. And so your whole life, even that you're 89 years old, 90 years old, and all of a sudden, you pass away and you wake up and you're 27 and you're like, what the hell just happened? Man, I thought I was an old man, and it was just a nightmare. And you go about your life.
So like Groundhog's Day, the movie, is that kind of symbolism as like a glitch in that reality where you're not progressing, like you're stuck in that glitch of what you're actually talking about?
Yes.
Dude.
So, but that brings aligned the idea of simulation theory. That brings about the ideas of things that a guy by the name of Philip K. Dick talked about. And if everybody doesn't know, Philip K. Dick was one of the most influential science fiction writers ever. His works explored reality, simulation, artificial intelligence, time, memory, and alternative timelines. There's some major movies based on Philip K. Dick's works. Maybe you've heard of them: Blade Runner, Total Recall, Minority Report, The Adjustment Bureau. Yeah. The Man in the High Castle is a book that Philip K. Dick wrote. But I think it was, let me see. The lecture was back in the 1970s or 80s, I believe, in Geneva, Switzerland. It was a physics symposium. And Philip K. Dick was invited. And this is only 4 minutes long. I want to play this for people. I want you to listen to what one of the most greatest science fiction writers says right here.
The subject of this speech is a topic which has been discovered recently and which may not exist at all. I may be talking about something that does not exist. Therefore, I'm free to say everything or nothing. I, in my stories and novels, often write about counterfeit worlds, semi-real worlds, as well as deranged private worlds, inhabited often by just one person, while meantime the other characters either remain in their own worlds throughout or are somehow drawn into one of the peculiar ones. This theme occurs in the corpus of my 27 years of writing. At no time did I have a theoretical or conscious explanation for my preoccupation with these pluriform pseudo-worlds, but now I think I understand. What I was sensing was the manifold of partially actualized realities lying tangent to what evidently is the most actualized one, the one which the majority of us, by consensus gentium, agree on. Later that day, back home again, but still deeply under the influence of the sodium pentothal, I had a short, acute flash of recovered memory. Then, in mid-March, a month later, the total body of memories, intact and entire, began to return. You are free to believe me or to disbelieve, but please take my word on it that I am not joking. This is very serious, a matter of importance. At that time, I had no idea what I was seeing. It resembled nothing that I had ever heard described. It resembled plasmic energy.
So, by the way, that last part when he was talking about the sodium pentothal, this is like a hour-long speech that he gave. This is just fragments of it. But what he was talking about is, if anybody knows, read the book, or watched the show Man in the High Castle, that was done by Philip K. Dick. And in the first part of the actual speech, he comes out and says that that book isn't a work of fiction, it's an autobiography. And he goes, that's the world that I lived in and that I'm from. And then one day I woke up here and started having the memories of here, but remembered that world as well. And I'm going to let
It
him
had
go on.
colors, it moved fast, it collected and then dispersed. But what it was, what he was, I am not sure even now. In other words, it's a common theme in my writing that a dark-haired girl shows up at the door of the protagonist and tells him that his world is delusional, that there's something false about it. Well, this did finally happen to me. I even knew that her hair would be black. I had an actual complete sense of what she would look like and what she would say. She did appear, she was a total stranger, and she did inform me of this fact, that some of my fictional works were in a literal sense true. I wrote out these dreams in novel after novel, story after story. To name two in which this prior ugly present obtained most clearly, I cite The Man in the High Castle and my 1974 novel about the U.S. as a police state called Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said. I'm going to be very candid with you. I wrote both novels based on fragmentary residual memories of such a horrid slave state world. People claim to remember past lives. I claim to remember a different, very different present life. I know.
Okay. I'm not going to let everybody watch the rest of it. You can go search that out there. I'll provide the links for everybody. But I want to give you another understanding. He goes further down the road and he starts to talk about how he starts having fragmentations of reality. So he's got his most constructive reality, but then dreams bring about fragmentations of reality. And he goes, I started meeting people, and these people were having the same experiences I were having. And we decided to observe reality. And this is what he documented with groups of people, Alpha. He said, we started noticing subtle transitions and changes within our reality. He goes, for instance, there was one of our people that was at a dinner table, and every day they would eat dinner at that table, and there's a big painting over the dinner table. And they would notice that a bush was just moved a little bit to the right, a little bit more. And they would study the picture and the image, and they would remember where the trees and the bushes were. And then over months, they would realize, oh my God, I looked at it, and there the bush was moved. Subtle transitions in reality. And he goes, the more and more we began to look at this, the more we began to realize that reality isn't natural. It's a simulation. And what we're actually watching is the refresh, the updating of a computer system that tends to have error correction, and it is getting things wrong along the way when it's updating the background refresh. And so, interesting enough, this is in 1977. When video games came out, when Mario's running on the screen, there's nothing behind him, right? Is that your video game doesn't refresh anything that's not being processed. If it's not being processed, it doesn't need to load the whole game world. It only loads this little segment that you're attached to. Well, reality is the same way, or at least he's proposing it is, that reality right now, like I can see my behind me, but outside my garage door, there's no processing needed of that reality because nobody's using it right now. And so therefore,
that scene.
Yeah. So therefore, in the universe, if we want to think in quantum physics, it exists in a waveform that is uncollapsed. But the moment a conscious observation comes into there, it immediately collapses or it renders the image. So what he's describing is that we live in a simulation, and in the simulation, and he even goes to say this and I wish I had that part. He says, the one way people in the future will be able to tell that we live in a simulation. He goes, as computer technology becomes better and better, we'll become more integrated as a society. We'll begin communicating through computers, and we'll be able to store data on computers. And when that begins to happen, people will be compiling databases of various different transitions of our reality, changes in nature and reality. And so Mandela Effect wasn't coined until 2010. Now, why is 2010 the most interesting point of the Mandela Effect?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, let me blow your fucking mind. So, do you remember when the internet came out? I mean, we're just talking about this. We're both Gen Xers, right? Do you remember when the internet came out? I gotta use the phone. Oh shit! Hang up, right?
AOL dial-up, baby.
Yeah, dial-up modems. You go onto the internet, you try to load an image. You're like sitting there, you get your dick in your hand. You're waiting like 35 minutes for that picture to load. Like, yeah, man, it was like internet was horrible. And the reason the internet was horrible is because we didn't have the we didn't have the infrastructure to substantiate it. Okay,
Right.
So what we had was we had to have a computer reaching out through a phone line or a DSL line that goes to a Google server that's 5 states away, but you'd go through relay stations that would amplify the signal. Well, of course it's going to take a long ass time. Well, in the 2000s, we began building out an infrastructure. Google, Amazon, and Microsoft began building a massive infrastructure. And what they realized is that, hey, instead of having one server right here, why don't we do on-demand servers? Why don't we just have a server in every major city, and then we have sub-servers in other small cities, but those sub-servers are dormant until they're used, right? So we have one main server that feeds all these other servers, but these other servers, we're not paying for them unless they're used. And so what would happen is a cell phone, a tablet, or computer would connect to a server. It would spool up this virtual server. It would connect, and then it would begin downloading the information and render it in the pages that you're looking at. So if you remember, like mid-2000, pages would load a little bit faster, like dun, 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 dun. That was the page loading from.
And we thought that was lightning, bro. We thought that.
But we
was
also
lightning.
had these things, but text really wasn't there. People were still calling, right? You couldn't really do email on those early phones. You definitely couldn't do websites. I remember the first website I went to on my phone. Do you remember you want to know what it was?
Which one?
MySpace.
Fab Five, baby. Fab Five.
Yep, it was MySpace. And I remember MySpace loading, all you had was a black page because you had to zoom out because the page was so big because mobile pages weren't built then. Well, by 2010 is really when these things took off. And they took off because that infrastructure had been completed and virtualization for storage and computation went viral. And this is when cell phones, the first 3G and 4G cell phones began to come out to where you could actually load a web page on your phone in real time. It might take 30 minutes or 30 seconds or 40 seconds, but you had downloadable. I remember like telling my friends back in the day, like one day these pages are going to load lightning fast. You're going to be able to watch movies and videos on this stuff. Well, it was 3 years later where you're able to watch videos because the storage capacity and the virtualization increased so drastically. Well, the reason why the Mandela Effect came out in 2010 was because we became interconnected because social media and text messaging became the norms of communication. People started chatting back and forth, but also the accessibility of the internet became global. People became more interconnected because the accessibility and the speed of the internet happened much faster. We moved from Web 1.0 into Web 2.0, where you had video and audio and people integrated and communicating. And what happened is people immediately started talking about this weird fucking phenomena, just like Philip K. Dick predicted back in 1977, of how reality has these weird transitions and glitches. Like, I remember Nelson Mandela died in prison. This person's like, no, I remember that he didn't die in prison, that he lived. And I remember him coming out and he actually became president of South Africa, right?
Well,
so like,
let me ask you this then, because I've considered this and I don't know. Is it possible? Because we know there's a lot of technologies that the government hasn't released from us. or released to us, right, to the civilian population. Is it possible, given the ability of artificial intelligence, and obviously I'm making the speculation here that a artificial intelligence has been around a hell of a lot longer than they've ever told us, and I'm not talking about like the inception of it, they acknowledge that. I'm talking about like full blown, they had working legit artificial intelligence way back then. If that was the case, is it possible, or why would they even consider doing social experiments? Let's go. We have the ability to recreate photographs all over the internet. And when people try to go and present a physical copy of something, we can go and affect those images when they upload them. So, the only way people will be able to do it is that they show each other like in person to in person, which, rarely happens. Is it at least possible that this could be just one large social experiment? And if it is, I mean, I still don't understand why they would do that, but I am curious. Do you think that that's a possibility?
So, you ready for this one?
I don't know, bro. Every time you say, "Are you ready?" It's just like you're just gonna like my mind. So
October 2019, Aaron Valente, a 33-year-old tech entrepreneur from Tinker Ventures, was found dead in San Francisco while she was attending a symposium on advanced technologies. She was out of Utah. Tinker Ventures had government contracts working, I believe, in advanced AI systems. She wrote home, she texted her father. So, by the way, she was found in her car dead. Parent suicide. Found in her car dead, parent suicide. Okay? She had texted her father hours before. This is what she said. And by the way, she had just came out of meetings with other high-ranking military and tech guys. It's all a game. We're in the Matrix, is what she said to her parents. That's the parents of Utah tech CEO found dead inside her car in San Jose. Just 5 days, search reveals the daughter's last phone call and say that she suffered a manic episode before vanishing. She says it's all a game. It's one big psyop. We're in the Matrix. Now, was Eric Valente right? Is this just one big psyop and we are actually in a Matrix? Or are there other rational explanations for how reality is so fucking weird?
Well, if you allow me, I do have a sponsor that kicked in, and then I want to answer that on the other end of this. So I will bring this up on the screen, and I will put it over my face.
Which one is it? Which one is it?
It's a custom one. I'll have to show you this. Okay. I think you'll like this one. So, all right, check this out. This just came out of R&D, research and development, folks, and it's wild. The engineers over at MCG Tactical teamed up with some legit defense contractors and retired special forces guys to build one thing: the toughest, fastest red dot sight on the planet. They call it the Rattler, R-A-T-L-R. We're talking next level tech here, a special lens coating that kills glare, keeps the image crisp, and lets you zero in crazy fast with a 2 MOA dot. It's tough as nails, lightweight, totally waterproof, heat resistance, and it coat witnesses perfectly with your irons. That's the iron sights, folks, old school. The wild part, many military contractors are dumping their $800 optics for this thing. And right now, MCG Tactical is letting my audience get this for under $60. Yeah, that's right. You get 75% off and free shipping during this launch. But heads up, their supply is tight, so they're capping it to 2 per person. They also got it in tan and black. Whatever your rifle setup is, they got you covered. If you want one, scan the QR code you see on the screen right now on Rumble, or go to mcgtac.com/redrat before they're gone. So again, mcgtac.com/redrat. Supplies are limited, folks. Get in it and get it now. If you're watching the replay, that link will be down in the description. Hopefully, there are still some there. Do you got one that you'd like to run?
Nope.
All right. So here's my thing, man. And you know the way I am. It's like, I know we got to break free of the matrix. Like I'm there with you, right? You know,
But how do
Neo-
you define the matrix? Let me ask you that. So so number one, we have a matrix of words in our language.
we do.
Words are your prison. I'm gonna say this to you. Words are your prison. Okay. You just came off of a sit rep show, right? You had
Right.
JB on there, CanCon. Now you were asking, you're using words to describe things, and they were bringing words back at you, and there's massive disagreement. Still love each other, but there was massive disagreement. Why was there disagreement? Because your words are not defined the same way as his words. So when you say something, so this is the perfect example of left versus right paradigm, right? That the left, they have their own understanding of what words are. This is why they went out there and extended their vocabulary to include new shit. Okay. It's not to confuse us. It's because they understand the realm of words and how
Well,
words are utilized to control.
You even, I mean, to kind of support that, you see the hijacking of words.
That's
You
right.
know, growing up, what did a rainbow mean to the majority of the population, right? It went back to like biblical scripture, right? And now you see a rainbow, and what do you think? You're thinking LGBT.
That's called symbolic inversion. And that's done for various different reasons in the context of the black arts and magic and occult. But what I'm talking about are actual words. And this is what I want people to start to see what I'm going to say here.
Like you're saying, like the audio version of the word itself.
Yes. When you hear a word. So number one thing I want you to do is I want you to look up. And do you have an object in front of you somewhere on the wall?
Not on the wall necessarily, but I
Is
do
there
have
anything, a picture, a mirror, anything like that?
yes, behind me, yes.
Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to turn around, and the first thing you see, I want you to turn back around, look at me, and tell me what happened immediately when you saw it.
I
What
saw
did your
the
brain do?
process the color of it.
Did your brain say something?
Yeah, said the
Blue,
word,
red, green, picture, right?
right?
As in, you're not in control of that. Before you could actually go in there and look and see what that was, your brain is telling you what it was. Okay.
Well, yeah,
That
but
that
that's the way
yeah,
it's supposed to work, right?
no. But what I'm trying to tell you is that if I look up right now, I got a Punisher skull and I got a Myrmidian skull, right? But when I look up, my brain immediately, before I even justify what it is or think about what it is, my brain is telling me what it is.
Oh, because I
Right?
know what's behind me. So when I look at it, I know what I'm going to see. Is
Right.
that what you're
But if you look to the left and you just saw something completely random, like right there, I have a picture of my dad. I look, boom, my mind goes, dad. Right? I'm just looking. My first thing it sees, dad, right? But your brain is in control of language. Language is the matrix. Language is a prison. Why? Because it's symbolic that attaches to the archetypical, the nature of what's deep inside your mind
Let me
and
interrupt
understanding.
Let me interrupt there. First, interrupt Texas Rules. Shout out, gifted 5 subscriptions over the AlphaWarrior Show. Thank you for that. But let me ask you this then, because this is where, you know, it might get weird. So, you know, like when my daughter was an infant, or not even infant, we'll get into like toddler, where she can't speak yet. So then what's her interpretation of when she sees the same picture on the wall or something? Because she doesn't,
I love this conversation.
she hasn't learned vocabulary yet. So she's just, I'm assuming she's just processing an image, colors and shapes.
You're absolutely right. And so not only that is now extend that to the baby in the womb. Extend that to the baby in the womb who has mental processes going on where it's registering darkness, dampness, it's inhalation, it's exhalation, it feels its heartbeat, it feels the hands of the mother and the father, they hears the Charlie Brown's mother, right? Why do you think Charlie Brown was in the womb? That's why you always heard Charlie Brown's mother like that, right? He was a baby dreaming who dreamt it all up. That's a conspiracy theory for you. That's why his mother always talking like this, because it was the mother talking through the womb. But what is the base operating system of an infant in the body. And I can get into that whole part here and my thoughts and theories on it, but I want to bring a deeper relevance here in the context of language. Rudyard Kipling, the author of the Jungle Book, he said that words are the most powerful drug known to humanity, and I am but a master of words. Words, let me ask you this. You ever heard sticks and stones may break your bones, but words may never hurt you?
All right.
Bullshit.
I agree. Words do hurt people.
Well, how about this? Every war ever fought was fought because of words, but also every war ever ended was ended because of words. Every love ever given was given through words. Well, no, okay, that's not right. But love is expressed through words, right? We look for that, although love is much deeper and grandeur. But start to think about that. Every fight, every conflict, every war started because of words, but they also ended because of words. What did God say? In the beginning was the
Light.
No, in the beginning was the word.
Oh, okay. Okay. You taking me to Sunday school right here, bro. Put me on the
But in Greek, it's in the beginning was logos. Oh.
Well, so what I'm thinking, because you know me, like you make my brain go into a couple different pathways.
I know I got to stop and let Alpha catch up and then ask
Yeah,
questions.
it's just like it's a psst, right. But one of the things you're making me think about right now, to bring it to General Flynn, right? Because we love when we get to bring him into the conversation. 5th generation warfare is information, which I'm assuming information, we're talking words, and that's war evolving. So we're going from, throwing rocks and stones and bone arrows and missiles to 5th generation warfare, which is information. It's words.
Right. Well, yeah. Words are, I think, a domain of the warfare construct, right? When we say information, and that information can be just about anything. And that's the one thing that we're learning about reality is that information is everything and anything. But words are the biggest construct, whether it's written words. How about this? Have you ever noticed this this problem with texting? You're texting someone and they're like, why you being a dick? You're like, oh, dude, I'm not. I'm sorry. I was just texting you.
It's how they interpreted it.
It's how they say that again.
It's how they interpreted it.
Now go back to your sit rep episode. The words you were using were your words. You meant all the right things, but their understanding of those words were different. When you say one word in particular, Israel, it means something different to them than it does you. Therefore, their interpretation, their paradigm, their worldview, their belief structure is different. That's the power of words. This is the idea behind words. So think about this: is all words start all wars. Why? Meaning, interpretation, understanding. We might be saying the same word, but it doesn't have the same conceptual meaning.
So then let's take it back to like the baby or the infant then. What's their like for me, like, I'm looking at you, but I got a 49er helmet right here. I don't care who tries to hate greatest team ever. There's a 49er helmet that's right here. So as I'm looking, I see the 49er helmet. My mind's describing that to me, like the visualization of it. That's how I'm communicating with myself, right? Or like when we, like when we're running like our daily plan through our head, all right, got to stop by the post office, got to get to the gym, got to stop at the grocery store to get, and I can picture all these things. Well, my brain's operating off all the words that I've learned in my entire life, right? Well, how is that baby or the infant having that conversation in their head? Because they're still learning their interpretation of what mom and dad is teaching, but they're still seeing something. Like they're visually seeing something.
Let me help you in the understanding of what we know of how babies see the world. Number one is babies exist, or children up to the age of 6 or 7 exist in a very receptive state, in a very hypnagogic type of state. Number two, is babies don't see broom or fan, whiteboard, picture. Babies see square, black, but they don't associate it with square and black. They see square. And so that square is a square. They associate like, oh, they'll see a square picture frame and they'll associate that with a book that was square with a block that was square. And that's what they will see. Then they'll see a circle and they'll be like, oh, cup, can. But they don't think cup and can. They think circle, circle, circle. But circle with circle, green, blue, circle, red, white. That's how babies think. They think in contextual format. So they think in geometry. They think in color. They think in texture. They think in taste and smell. That is how a baby thinks.
Is that why that game Roadblocks is so popular with young kids? Because it's something that they're probably more familiar with, even if they don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, probably. I would absolutely agree with that.
Because I'm telling you, just my brain's going a million miles an hour right now. Because one of the things that I studied, with babies is how do they see? And the conversation is they don't see color for a while, right? It's black and white. And if you get, even when you're close up to them, they don't really recognize your face. Your face looks blurry, right?
It takes a little while for
that's where I'm going.
Chromatones in the eye to actually form.
Well, that's where I'm going. That's what they've told us. But as I listening to you get my brain to start critically thinking outside the box, I'm like, maybe it has nothing to do with that. And maybe what it is, it just takes time for them to put the ones and zeros together. And that's what creates the image of dad or mom or grandma.
They have to download the program of reality. I mean, that's what you want to look at it like that is an infant all the way up to like 3 years old is downloading the base operating system of reality. They are taking in shapes and smells and colors and temperature and textures, and they are watching, they are seeing. The senses are developing during this time, which is also framing the neural synaptical signaling. Now, for most people, they probably never.
Let's let you know, I've been keeping an eye on the chat over here, and people are loving this conversation, bro.
Good.
Just so you know.
Well, so most people probably don't think about how they think. I had immense kind of just moments of silence where I just thought about how I think, right? And I'm like, I try to understand. Well, let's go into this conversation because it deals with the kind of the overall conversation we're talking about. But let me ask you this. What is the base fundamental level of communication?
Body language, I would say. Facial expressions.
Nope. Wrong.
Touch.
Nope.
Talking.
Nope.
Throw me a lifeline here.
Well, think about it. What were you talking about here? You're talking about an action. An action is the product of something. Talking is the product of something. Both of those things come from thoughts, right? But where do the thoughts derive from?
Our mind.
What is a thought? Saying the mind is saying you don't even know what the fuck the mind is. You don't even know how to define the mind.
That's in here, bro.
What is it? How do you define it? How does a thought form?
It is so my brain housing group, right? That bunch of like noodles that's in there. All right. my brain housing group. Something happens, it stimulates it, it creates these sparks of energy. If these sparks, so like when I grab my water because I'm thirsty, it knows, well, if we're thirsty, we have to activate these sparks of energy that make this thing activate in my brain that creates this motor movement.
You're getting a good idea of it. So you have synapses, right? Neurological structures. Your brain is just one big synaptical structure, trillions of neurons within your brain and throughout your whole body, right? So what a thought actually is sequences of synaptic firing in patterns over time. What do I mean by that? Trillions of interconnected neurons all firing bioelectrical signals at one microsecond. Maybe it's 280 billion firing in this pattern, At another 1/millionth of a microsecond, they're firing in this pattern. At another 1/millionth of a microsecond, they're firing in this pattern. Okay? But that's happening in patterns and sequences over time. And it happens incredibly fast. Okay? Which means that the base level of communication, all communication, is neurological. And if you want to take it to that level, what is the base interface of your neurological system? It is
What? You gotta say that louder.
electricity.
Okay.
Okay. So the base level of communication is actually electricity. It's neural connectivity.
So how does this, to bring it back to the Mandela effect, how are the two intertwined?
So how are the two intertwined? Oh my goodness. All right. So number one, everything that you're experiencing right now is an illusion. It's not real. It's fake. Okay? It's fake and it's gay. Let me kind of rationalize something for you. Are you consciously aware right now? Okay. Are you in the moment right now?
I know where you're going with this.
Just answer the question.
So I was, but now I'm in a new moment. And that
Correct.
moment just passed, so now I'm in another moment.
Okay, but stop right there. You were never in that moment. The reason why is because your whole body, how it perceives reality, is fake and gay. Let me kind of explain this. You have primary sensory organs. The strongest and most powerful sensory organ is your eyes, your left and your right.
You gotta let me read a funny ass comment that came in.
Go ahead.
So Eric Q. Freeman says, LOL, that's why I vibe with Josh. He's taken almost as much acid as I have.
I have, actually. Probably more. But so you have your left and your right eye, okay? Inside your eye, you got things known as rods and cones, and this is how you see the external world. Now, your eyes actually give off photons, but they receive photonic energy or electromagnetic energy, okay? Now, your skin, if you touch your skin, you feel that, right? But did you know that the atoms inside of your body are not actually touching anything? That those are electromagnetic forces that are repulsing each other. Okay?
This is crazy. So let me give you a real life example that maybe
let me finish this. I got
all right. Don't let me forget though. Remind me shooting.
Write it down in front of you. Say, don't forget. Okay. But so I'm not actually touching myself. The olfactory senses, when I smell something, that is stimulating biochemical responses that then go bioelectrical. When I hear something, it oscillates the bones in my ear, which then produce an electrical signal. In other words, all of your sensory organs, although they might be touch and taste and smell and see and hear, are electromagnetic when they are interpreted by your brain. So this just takes sight, for example, okay? The world is coming in. Your rods and your cones in your eyes start oscillating. They send electrical signals down your optic nerve to your cerebral cortex, right back here. Your cerebral cortex is in the back of your brain, the deepest, darkest spot of your brain that's never, ever experienced light or reality in its existence. But yet, this thing back here says, this is what's out here. It's light. It doesn't know. It's never experienced light before. It's only experienced light through a secondary interaction. Light comes into the photons. Rods and cones start oscillating. Electrical signals down the optic nerve to the cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex receives the optic nerves, not the photons. So your brain really doesn't know what's happening out here. It produces an illusion of what it believes is out there from that base level of construct of circles and squares and rectangles and brown and red and blue. It develops from that base construct your interpretation or understanding of reality. Now, here's the kicker of all of this. The processing that it takes your brain to actually do that is like 300th of a millionth of a second. That's pretty damn fast, right? But guess what? That means that reality itself, the moment, is delayed. That you experience reality in a delayed format. You don't experience reality in the now. You experience reality 3/100ths of a microsecond later, which means that the reality that you're actually perceiving is a snapshot in your brain of what your brain believes it is, not what it actually is, because what it actually is, your brain is now processing now. In other words, your reality right now is actually your first memory. It's a memory. You're not actually experiencing reality at all. You're experiencing a memory, a snapshot created by your brain of what it believes is actually out there.
So I got two things for you, and I wrote down both of them. The second one I'll wait. So one of my buddies that I used to work with in law enforcement, he was into this. He was into the woo-woo shit, right? Like he was. And when we're talking about my very first shooting that I got in, right? Or was it the second one? No, it was the first one. The second was probation. So we were talking about this, and I'm walking up. So I'll set the scene up for the audience. I'm at the Starbucks getting coffee. 'Cause that's what cops do, right? We don't do the coffee and donuts anymore. We just do coffee. And call goes out. All right, a strange ex is at the house. It's been harassing the female. We were out there the day before. Cops weren't able to make contact. A suspect was GOA or gone on arrival. No restraining order paperwork on file. Can you respond? Well, it wasn't my call. I'm rookie. I just got off probation. Literally, that was my first day. As a matter of fact, yeah, it was my first day off of training on my own, and this is the second call for service. So my second call as a cop on his own. And so I'm around the corner, and I'm like, hey, you're rookie. You got to show off to, the senior guys. You got to make them happy with you. So I get on the radio, all big bad, right, 7 feet tall and bulletproof, and say 573. I'll be en route. Right at start. I'm literally 30 seconds away, not even 30 seconds. So I drive up and I do and I'm setting it up for the conversation, folks. Just trust me here. So I do all the good rookie stuff. Park 2 houses down, make a tactical approach, provide the license plate of the vehicles in the driveway. I'm scanning the territory. But I remember as I'm approaching the door, I'm walking towards the front tree, and I did notice one of the windows in the garage was broken, that your attention to detail, right? And I remember as I approached this tree, that hairs in the back of the neck start to rise up. And so I'm like, the last place that this lady reported seeing him was the backyard. So let me check the backyard, and then I'll knock on the front door. And so I proceed to the north side of the house, right? The house is a house that faces east and west. Side yards are north and south. So I'm approaching the north side of the yard, and it's an old RV gate, but it has like the mesh iron. So you can see through it, but you're seeing like the silhouette, right? And as I approach it and I'm getting ready to open it, the dude comes around the back corner of the house. And so I see him. I'm like, Thomas, police, wait right there, or something to that effect. And I just remember he goes, no. And I'm like, Thomas, come here. And he starts turning around. So as a rookie, when someone starts turning around after you told them come here, you're like foot pursuit, like game on, baby. It's showtime, right? So I'm starting to open it, right? Because I'm gonna chase this dude down. And I'm gonna be the hero my first day on my own. But what he was doing was he was spinning around, because in his waistband, as he comes around, he pulls out a gun and starts plow, 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 firing at me. I take cover to the brick wall. The firefight engages. I'm here. He's not. Now, I bypass all the graphic stuff because that part's irrelevant to the story. Now I'm talking to my friend about this. And, like the warning senses, right? The hairs on the neck, like, how'd you know, right? And I'm telling him this, like, I'm in tune with it and all this. And he goes, no. He goes, because you saw the guy in the backyard. I go, I didn't see the dude in the backyard. There's a house between us. And he's like, no. And I'm thinking if he knows some of the stuff you're talking about. He goes, no, man, your eyes tell you there's stucco in a garage door and all this other stuff. But he goes, there's so many lenses in your eye that your eye's prioritizing what it sees as, it from primitive, to make you survive, to the nonchalant stuff. And, and that's why, like, later your brain will process something else it saw, like, ghost and etc. But to this point, he goes, you weren't seeing the stucco in the garage door. Your eyes processing, because you could see through the house. You could see through everything in there. You can see everything that's going on. It's just your house paints what you're seeing going on as there's a wall there and in all this. He goes, but the reality is you see everything. He goes, we see everything. He goes, and that's why your neck were tingling, because your brain was processing the threat that was on the other side of that house of what it was. And that's what gave you pause to say, hey, I'm going to make a different approach. Now, at the time he told me that's like, dude, you're nuts, bro. No, that's not what it was. It was the hairs on my neck because of years and years of doing this from combat and all this other stuff. And he's like, no, it's the same thing in all those situations. So was he telling me something then that I wasn't picking up on that we're talking about now?
Yeah, he's talking about a sixth sense, bro. He's talking about your sixth sense, that there was. So think about it like this: is I think that we communicate far greater on the electromagnetic spectrum. And so imagine this. I used to be told these stories by so people don't know this about me. I've studied the occult and the esoteric mystery schools for well over 30 years of my life, to the point where I had a teacher who was very deep into these things. I call him the magic man, not because of his magic hands, but because he could do quite literal magic. And this man taught me a lot about life and reality. And one of the things that I learned was that, well, he would talk about this. He would talk about a guru from India that is worshipped, right? Like a god. And a lot of the gurus in India are worshipped like gods. Not that I'm saying they should be worshipped or anything like that. I'm just saying they are. And they consider them holy people or patron saints. There was one time when this patron saint showed up in a city in India with nobody knowing he was going to be there. And by the time that he got there, everybody was there. Thousands upon thousands of people showed up. And they didn't know why they showed up. They just had a feeling that he was going to be there. That they've measured that when this person, when specific patron saints would come into cities, moods would get different. People would get happier and change. Why? Because you have a bioenergetic field within your body. And that bioenergetic field is interconnected with everything within this planet, like a collective consciousness, if you want to look at it like that. And so what you were sensing is something that I've sensed multiple times in my life. I've walked into a restaurant and immediately, right? And right when for me, I'm very psychic. So when that happens, I start getting images that flood my brain. I see faces, I see people, I see what they're doing. And we sit down at the table and I look behind me and there's the image of my face sitting behind me. And he wasn't a good guy. He was, I'm like, I need to get out of here because the feeling was so overwhelming of evil. But we have this interconnectivity to the world and to each other. And what you actually sensed and felt was mostly that guy's biosphere of fear, of anger, of hatred, of evil, of his thought structure that's resonating and oscillating in it, that's thinking, I got a gun. If a cop comes back here, I'm going to do the dirty. You were feeling and sensing that to where your brain recognized it and was able to translate the communication to keep you aware and alert. And that's one thing specifically that combat veterans and people who have been in those types of situations, it's a skill that you learn.
Now I was trying to go through Ana Paulina Luna's profile. I can't find it. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I believe she was the one that showed the, look like time travel or, the convergence of time. Do you know what I'm talking about? It looked like a cone connecting to another cone, but it had to do, if I understand it, the manipulation of time. Or maybe it was both.
Oh, I know what she was doing. She was showing actually two wormholes interconnected, right?
Yes, that's what it was. So I was looking for that because I wanted to bring up that graphic to show, but I just can't find it. But it just seems like all this boils down to energy.
Mm.
And if that's the case, that everything is energy, and we're just doing the translation of that energy. Well, I'm trying to.
So I want you to do something for me. I want you to open Google, okay, and type in scientific definition of energy.
All right, ready?
Yep.
In science, energy is defined as the capacity or ability to do work, which means causing motion or change in matter.
So in other contextual sciences, it's the quantitative property of a physical system, recognizable in the performance of work and in the form of heat and light. In other words, do you understand what any of that means?
Meh.
Energy is motion.
Right.
Period. That's it. Energy is simply motion. Energy is a thing that has a quantitative property of a physical system. So matter, right now, the energy of this system is 0. Now it has energy. Now it doesn't. It has potential. It has kinetic, right? They don't define energy in science the true way that you would. Remember, we were talking about words, and words are important.
Right.
So when we say words like energy to a quantum physicist like Eric Weinstein, he doesn't think of energy in the same conceptual meaning as you think of energy. Because when you think of energy, you think about the primordial fabric of the universe. You're thinking about like everything's made of energy, right? But saying everything's made of energy is nonsensical. It makes no sense when you look at the actual. Saying everything is energy is saying everything is the ability to do work. Everything is the quantitative property of a physical system. That's how it sounds to a scientist when you say that. Think about it.
So then how would you describe it? Because I think I got a tongue twister one ready for you. But how would you describe it?
How would I describe it? So I think that this is one of the biggest problems in science because we have this substrate, this thing that exists inside of all physical systems, yet we can't truly define it. So we say that all motion, all movement, all spin, all of this stuff, the quantitative property of that physical system is we call that energy, but we don't want to define it. Now, let's kind of define things by defining things, right?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, if we're gonna figure out,
because I think I'm gonna stump you here in a few moments.
Do it. Bring it out.
So, all right, folks. I think I got Josh. I think I got him right here. I think I got him. So then, how does a blind man interpret the world or see the world? Because they're blind, so they're not seeing trees or cars the way we are. But when we communicate that to them,
I got a cool story about this actually.
Okay,
So number one is blind people who have been blind since birth.
right.
Blind people aren't actually completely blind. So a blind person isn't just complete darkness inside their brain. They actually see like a kaleidoscope and fractures of color. Okay. So that's the first thing is that like they can't see the reality that we see, but they see fractures or fragmentations of it. Right. But they enhance their other senses, taste and touch and smell. And so their brain begins to construct the world based upon those things. Now, do they see pictures in their head? Yeah. But the pictures are developed by touch, by feel. So they utilize their other senses, which are electromagnetic in nature, to reinterpret the world. There's a great story out there. There's this, I forget, this is on Coast to Coast AM many, many, many years ago. This was like back in like 2001, 2002. And there was this neuroscientist who was studying blind people and other people with various different cognitive disabilities. And he started hearing stories from blind people that sometimes they would see this like flickering in the corner of their brain, like a flickering light. And he goes, well, describe it for me. They're like, well, I really can't. The best way I can describe it is like, it looks like there's this little flickering pattern. It's continuous. And then it would start to kind of cascade down. And there's all of these symbols, the best they could describe it, symbols that fall with it. And it would happen every so often. And he's like, well, let me, he goes, what do the symbols look like? He goes, well, I can't really tell you what they look like, but they feel much like the characters that we're touching with my fingers.
No.
And so
just for the record, what I'm picturing right now is the Matrix, like the ones in the zeros coming down.
So what he was actually describing in his brain was, you remember the old Microsoft computers when you would load them up, they would and you'd have the whole system that upload. He was explaining that in his brain. Every so often it would try to reboot and it would begin processing and rebooting into it. Now, going back to energy.
Yeah, go back to energy. And then you got to explain how this creates the Mandela effect for me. I got to understand.
Okay. Oh, yeah. We can go back into the Mandela effect, but I'm going to energy. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Okay. Why? There was a very religious experience that I had in my life where, by the way, for everybody out there, I've died twice in my life, both when I was very, very young. I had sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, in my crib. And then I also died after my first vaccine that they gave me, the pertussis vaccine. And then I jumped in a pool with a cover on it, but my brother saved me. But I've had some very spiritual and religious type of experiences. One of them was when I believed that I was in the realm of God. And it just, I can't explain the sensation, the feeling. All I can tell you is the thoughts that were exchanged. And imagine for a moment that you're in the realm of God, God's realm. And you realize it and you come to this understanding that you can ask any question you want. And then the voice inside your head says, but you're in the realm of God, so all is known. And then the realization kicks in. There are no questions to ask in the realm of God. If God is all absolute and all totality, then God is all questions and answers and all answered questions. There is no mystery. There is no intrigue. There is no curiosity. Everything is known all at once. And I realized in that moment of this religious experience that I had of God's predicament, because God has a predicament, is that God cannot ask questions. God cannot know anything about himself because God knows everything about himself. So think about it. If you know everything about yourself instantaneously, there's no question to ask. God can't ask questions.
You could create a version of yourself to live an experience to kind of see what that would feel like. So you could
fracture your whole being into a substrate consciousness that forgets what it is, and you expand it throughout your entire creation, and then it grows up and rises up to discover itself, which then is you rediscovering yourself through separation, but you're actually still one.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Okay. Bro. But let me ask you a series of questions. How do you define? And this is why I was getting into that, because questions are the heart of the mystery. Questions are the pathway that we take to discover. And here's one of the other key things that I've learned in the universe is that life, people will say life's about finding meaning. Life's about discovering who you are. And I do believe it's so it's a Latin phrase. Where is it? Right here. Latin phrase. Ipsum tenacious. All right. And what it means is know thyself. And that is probably the most important phrase in all philosophy and in spiritualism and religion. Know thyself. And there's a reason why, but put that to the side right now. The one experience that we can have in all of life and all of understanding is an epiphany or an aha moment. You ever had an epiphany? Oh my God. It's a revelation. It's the most exhilarating feeling in the world. Why? Because you just discovered something new. Now imagine having a thought that nobody else in the entire universe has ever think. That is completely unique and genuine. That's what I strive for. I strive for to have thoughts and ideas,
like original thought.
yeah, that nobody's ever had before because they're powerful. And that whole powerful construct is a different thing that we can talk about at a later time. But in understanding this, the question is what drives us. Remember from the movie? But Neo, it's the question that drives us. It is the question that drives us because questions are the most important aspect of all discovery and curiosity. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions because I hope that within these series of questions, you and the audience begin to discover some things.
Okay.
What is God?
He's my creator.
I'm starting easy.
Yeah. My creator, the all.
Don't explain him in the reference to your relationship with him. Explain it if I was an alien who you had to use very simple descriptive words to explain God, the concept of God, how would you explain it?
He is the original source of everything.
I love it. Original source. He's absolute and he's totality, right? It's the absolute totality. There is nothing outside of it. Okay, cool. So we understand God is absolute totality. God is everything, right?
Right.
Now I want you to define for me nothing.
It's the absence of that.
It can't be. God is everything.
Well, nothing doesn't exist because it's nothing.
Stop right there. Nothing cannot be defined because the moment you define it, it becomes something. This is the ultimate paradox. Nothing cannot be defined because the moment you define it, it becomes something. So therefore, nothing, no thing has ever existed.
You're taking me back to the never-ending story, bro. A trail. If you guys don't know, if it's a freaking crown. I'm gonna have to watch that movie because there's probably so stories in there.
Nothing does not exist, which gives you the answer to the paradox. If nothing has never existed, that means that everything has always existed.
Okay, I'm tracking that thought.
Perceive that, right?
Yeah.
If nothing has never existed, which we can do that just by simple meaning and understanding and definition, that means that everything has always existed. And how do we define everything?
As God.
God has always existed.
Okay.
Now, physicists, right? Most physicists are cosmologists, astrophysicists. They're atheists. They don't believe in God. But you want to know their understanding of reality? Did you ever hear that joke that Richard Feynman used to talk about with the Rome summit where they came up with the Big Bang Theory?
Briefly, yeah.
They said that Feynman would say that give scientists one miracle and they'll explain everything else. But the Big Bang was the one miracle that in the infancy of the universe, at the very moment of creation, everything was this little pea size or maybe even subatomic little speck of everything that in 100 millionth of a second expanded to half the size of the entire universe. Well, wait a minute. That just violated the speed of light, the understanding of time, gravity. Well, But it happened because those things didn't exist at that point in time. Well, if they didn't exist, then what was holding that little ball with all the universe together in it? Oh, gravity. But you just said gravity didn't exist in that time. So they become contradictory. But then you ask them, what came before? They say, I don't know. It came from nothing. But if it came from nothing,
It can't exist.
you have to go to the, it doesn't exist. It could never have existed, which means that if it didn't come from nothing, it came from
something. And that something is God.
And that something was everything, right? Because everything was right there. If that something is everything and that everything is God, that's where it all came from.
Right. I'm tracking.
Okay.
I like that. I
Well,
like
yeah.
that right there.
The scientists don't like having conversations with me. So now, here's where it gets really fucking cool. Because you asked what was energy, and that's what we're trying to truly define. And in science, energy is simply the quantitative property of a physical system. It's just the ability to do work. But then you get like the laws of thermodynamics, right? And one of the laws of thermodynamics is known as the conservation of energy. You ever heard this? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is only transferred from one medium to another, right? Now, exchange the word energy with the ability to do work. The ability to do work. The ability to do work is never created, nor the ability to do work is ever destroyed. The ability to do work is only transferred from one medium to another medium. What? It makes no fucking sense. Right? It makes no sense. But this is where it gets really, really interesting. Remember we were talking about the brain and how it works and the eyes and the light and all that stuff? Have you ever sat in a dark closet and closed your eyes? Complete pitch dark, right?
Right.
Now your brain is not stimulated by electromagnetic radiation coming into your eyes, but now you have shooting muffs.
I do.
So now you put shooting muffs on, and it's boom. You can hear your heartbeat. It's your bifurcation beat. Boom, 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 boom. Right? Now, imagine you took it a step further and you suspended yourself in salt water in a deprivation tank. You've completely turned off your sensory system. Do you know what happens to people when they do that?
Panic.
They hallucinate and find God. Because everything gets turned off. But let me ask you this question. Another question. If I turned off your hearing, if I turned off your taste, if I turned off your smell and your touch and your sight, what would be left?
My mind, my thoughts.
What is that called?
My soul.
Your thoughts, remember, your thoughts are a reactionary mechanism directly to your external environment. And your external environment communicates with your mind through your senses.
I'm going to be building off of language that's already in my brain, memories that are in my brain.
Okay.
Like I'm going to be.
So what is that? It's called awareness, your consciousness. The only thing that would exist at that point is consciousness, is your awareness of yourself, your awareness of your consciousness, right? Now, in Hermetic philosophy, the first kind of idealism that they have is that the all, everything, totality is mind. Now, this is actually a really good rationalization. If, let's say that death is finality, that's it. Lights out, nothing more, that you cease to exist, okay? If that was true and someone next to us or someone we don't know, I don't use people I know or anything like that. Someone we don't know down the road went out. That was it. They're gone. Does reality exist for them anymore?
Well, in our world, no.
Well, how do you know? How do you know that we're not a figmentation of their reality? Let me think about this. Imagine yourself.
You lost me on that one.
Okay. If everything suddenly ended for you and there's nothing after the end, then what is reality?
Well,
it's a mechanism of your own consciousness. Right?
Right.
So let me ask you this: is what produces energy in the universe? What do we know can produce energy in the universe? If
I'm
energy
guessing.
is simply the quantitative property of a system to do work, and everything is stagnant, there is no movement outside of energy, what produces the first energy flows?
An action.
An action. How do you get an action without a
Brain.
mind? A mind. So let's put it this way. What is the only thing in the entire universe that can create itself?
Humans. Well,
The
we're
mind.
not creating ourselves, but we're creating
Right.
other humans.
So can you close your eyes and regenerate a whole fictional world that never existed before?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're in the mind of God and God is totality, then where do we exist? In the mind of God. Right?
Right.
In other words, God is consciousness. There is nothing outside of consciousness. Consciousness is the base fabric of all reality. So here's another example. I'm observing this
pretty
pen right
interesting
now.
because it changes the perception of the power of prayer.
That's right. So let me ask you this. If this pen was sitting outside right now, does that pen exist?
Yes.
Scientifically, they would say it only exists in probability, in a probabilistic waveform. There's nothing there observing it, so therefore that pen does not exist. It only exists in probability. In other words, whenever you interact with something, that thing becomes a thing. Structure, meaning, all of this, ideas, language, all this stuff, right? If there's nothing there to observe it, it doesn't exist. And so we know. So you ever heard of the double slit experiment?
Well, let me ask you this then, because I get that. I get what you're saying there, but then something I don't see, but something I hear. Like if I'm listening to a song, you know, I'm hearing it. I'm not seeing anything. I'm hearing it. Some songs will make me feel happy. Some songs will make me feel sad. Some songs, you know, let the bodies hit the floor. Let's go to Iraq and thrash people, right? You know, that sound, and the sound's creating something in the absence of me seeing something.
But that sound,
Right.
you're being influenced by a sensory organ. Yeah.
But it's still, but that's also creating something though. It's creating
the sound. Yeah, but okay. Look around you right now. What do you see?
Monitors, lights on the sides, desks, 49er
All
helmet.
those things were once an idea in somebody's mind.
Correct.
Okay. Now go outside. What do you see?
The road, mailbox, truck, driveway.
All those things were ideas in somebody's mind. Now go
Right.
into nature. What do you see?
Trees, birds.
Why is it any different? How come those weren't an idea in something's mind?
It was our creator. Creator made them.
That's right. Is in the idea is that nothing exists without observation. And in order to be observed, it has to be aware. All right? So
Okay.
nothing exists without observation. And in order to be observed, it must be aware. In other words, the whole idea of the universe can only exist simply because something was there to observe it.
So then let me ask you this to bring it back to the Mandela effect. Me and you remember a cornucopia in Fruit of the Looms.
That's right.
But if you research photos, if you go to the devil's Google, if you do all these things, you're not going to find evidence that it existed. So if the observation is what makes it exist, then are we talking about, and I don't know if I'm probably going to confuse myself here. If observation is what creates, and are we saying that whoever has the majority observation is putting out a greater power, and that greater power of observation is what creates on that timeline? And that's why some people will say, no, there was never a cornucopia. And does that mean that the race becomes for the cognitive mind, because whoever can control the perception of memory is the one that can create the future, and that's all we're doing is just creating something by whoever can dictate our, control our minds? Did I make sense? I feel like I made sense.
Bro. I wish we could play these videos, but I'm not going to.
I feel like I upgraded from crayons to colored pencils, baby.
So there's a man out there who actually just passed away a few years ago. Amazing dude by the name of Burt Goldman. Okay.
Okay.
At 81 years of age, Burt Goldman learned how to play concert piano like a concert pianist. At 71, he became a photographer, a professional photographer, pictures selling for thousands upon thousands of dollars. Became a painter, painting selling for thousands and thousands of dollars. One day, someone asked Burt, "How did you do that, Burt?" He said, "Well, I quantum jumped into my doppelganger." He goes, if we live in a world of multiple universes and infinite possibilities, then that means that right now, somewhere in existence is me who's a concert pianist, or me who is a professional painter, or me who is a master photographer. And he goes, all I need to do is align my brain with the desire and the understanding of that's what I want to do. And I can resonate, oscillate with that reality, get in that person's mind, watch them going in there and moving the brush and seeing how the brush feels when they move it, or their hands when they're playing the piano, and the flow and the rhythm and the tone that's coming from it. And I can go in there and I can feel it and I can sense it. And I do that every day in meditation until I come out and I can play the piano and I can paint and I can take photographs like nobody could ever believe.
Okay. Look, I'm probably going to be a doomer here, but what happens in the process of doing that and your conscience gets caught in that reality that it just did, and now you don't leave? And you're
so here's the thing: is you're not leaving this reality to get there. All you're doing is, remember we were talking about kind of spectrum, like that if reality, if all matter, an atom, a photon, proton, or whatever, is what we observe is simply 1% of the actual spectrum of what it is. If there's 360 degrees to reality, we're only observing 1% of the spectrum. And I call this a phase. We only see a phase transition. We don't see the whole phase. So imagine that one other reality is we're between 2 and 3%. So we're 1% occupying between 2 and 3%. And another reality, they're at like 4.751 and 4.753. Okay. Well, what is that phase transition, that variation? That's an oscillation of consciousness, the frequency of your brain. In other words, in totality, in reality, all of those multiverses are actually collapsed into one. That means that all the versions and variations of you are actually one. But in the multiverse framework, they are not distributed. They are actually all one, but they are experienced in different phase intervals, which means that it's already right here with you right now. All you have to do is oscillate your brain to that knowledge. And how do you do that? Humans have something inside their brain that has been completely misunderstood. You ever heard like you gotta go out there and you got to drink that apple cider vinegar and cleanse your pineal gland, man. It's been calcified because of all the fluoride in the water.
It has.
You ever heard this?
Yeah, fluoride bad, man.
Nonsense. Let me help you here. Number one, the third eye talked about in occultism and esotericism and ancient philosophy. Everybody has, everybody knows, everybody uses it every day. They just had no idea that's what it was. And the biggest disservice that has been done to humanity is us being told since the time that we were little kids that it was useless and nothing more than daydreaming and fantasy. And it's called your imagination. Your imagination. When I say that word imagination, you think what? Like daydreaming, like thinking and visualization. Your imagination, imagine it as that part of your mind that can traverse that whole wheel of 360 degrees of all those phase transitions and pick any one it wants and sink right into it and then oscillate that frequency directly with your body. Think about it as that thing in your brain that interconnects all universe to where you can go anywhere in the universe if you just simply thought about it. That is truly what your imagination actually is. It is your third eye. It is the interconnecting domain of your subconscious and all of the domain of reality. And I'll tell you this from direct experience, that your imagination is the most underdeveloped part of the human psyche, mind, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. that everybody thinks like, oh, you're just going to imagine it, right? Like imagine it, right? No, your imagination is truly powerful. It can transcend reality. Don't believe me? Go out there and transcend reality. Just think about it. It'll actually happen. And when you learn to control that imagination, when you learn to move it like a picture book and the shape, whatever image you want to come up or whatever construct you want to come up, and that you can integrate into it, you can walk up to it, you can imagine a person standing in front of you and you can reach out and actually feel and touch that person. That's the power of your imagination.
So then is the Mandela effect us just not is one of us falling? So one's imagination and one's reality, right?
So what is the Mandela effect? There's various different theories. They say it's misremembered. I doubt that. In the context of what I'm talking about, the multiverse theory, it could be just subtle slips of deviation. So imagine that our reality is tuned in a bell curve. You know what a bell curve is?
Right, I do.
Everything comes up and then comes back down. Imagine that we're kind of attuned to this reality. And as we deviate, increase or decrease that, we tend to move towards another bell curve in another reality. Although subtly different, it's the same reality. We just don't know it. And we call this dimensional slip. Okay. And that imagine that you're actually dimensionally slipping every day, backwards and forward. And that some worlds that the Monopoly man had a monocle, but now he doesn't, because you've dimensionally slipped, deviated from that reality to where that possibility was actually relevant. So that's an idea.
And for the record, I say that we're not in the realm of woo anymore, because your United States government came out about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and said that we have the ability to manipulate time, folks. Like that's on the government website. I don't know if you saw that or not, Josh.
Yeah. There's Krasios, who is from the White House Office of Technology and Science, and he talked about that. But when we start to bring this into understanding, is that you have dimensional slipping. I honestly think that what the Mandela effect is dimensional slips. And so, like I was explaining with death, that gotten into a car accident and you died, and all of a sudden you wake up in your bed, that's a dimensional slip. You're transitioning to the closest, nearest reality to where the probability of you being alive and conscious aware is still there. And so if you think about that whole world, you ever seen Jet Li's The Movie The One?
I haven't.
So he's living in a multiverse and he doesn't realize it, and he's being hunted by himself from another multiverse, and he starts gaining these powers where he can move stuff with his mind. He's like, what the hell's going on? But his other person's a dimensional traveler and killing himself in all the other dimensions, because it's consolidating that conscious energy into one being, and there's only two left. And so the last one kind of becomes the super powerful being. Reality is actually very similar to that, because think about that fragmentation. It's called The One with Jet Li.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah. So I think dimensional shifting is actually real. And I think that's probably what we're experiencing with the Mandela effect. But there's simulation theory that it's a computer simulation. I don't tend to believe in simulation theory. The reason I say that is because our our idea of a simulation is based upon a computer system, which inside the computer system, you create a construct, and that construct, you create a base reality. But that computer system is built out of silicon chips, and silicon chips is nothing more than silicon atoms, and silicon atoms follow the rules of science and the laws of nature, and are following the rules of the universe to develop that computer system. And what we're actually doing is replicating our own external universe inside of a computer system. So that simulation that we're creating is nothing more than a rudimentary and a very rudimentary universe. It's just a mimicking of what we're seeing out here. In other words, our reality itself is nothing more than ones and zeros and electrical signals. And we call it digital because that's what we're developing now. But actually, that's natural. That's just the way it actually is. And since we have it synthetically created, we think that our reality is synthetically created, but it's not. It's actually natural. Now, do you remember the movie Jupiter Ascending?
I do. That was a long time ago,
Okay.
but I did watch that one.
The Wachowski sisters, Wachowski brothers, whoever did that movie, these people are deep in the occult and they know some things and they try to hide these things in their movies. And if you watch how the Abraxas spaceships actually move through space, it becomes very, very interesting. They begin to open a wormhole, but the wormhole isn't a wormhole like Einsteinian Rosenbridge. It's a digital glitch. It's a digital screen that just fades in and fades out and allows them to transit. Because maybe the core fundamentals of the universe is actually digital in nature, that digital is actually the correct methodology, the most efficient methodology to run a universe. And the other is time travel, that time travel does exist and that time travelers have been coming back, and the subtle small changes that they make cause these kind of deviations in the timeline, although not great, but small and deviant.
You know what you made me think of right now, bro? So I have a laptop in front of me right here, and then right behind that is my Mac Studio.
Yeah, I'm here. By the way, I'm here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I have my Mac Studio, and then behind my Mac Studio is a monitor here, a monitor there, monitor there. And, you know, if I go on my desktop here and I grab this file and I drag it into the other file, I'm getting this visual representation of what's happening on my monitor, but it's not happening in my monitor. It's happening inside my Mac Studio. You know, there's, you know, all this electricity that triggers something that triggers something. And, you know, I'm looking at this image, but that image that I'm seeing on my screen is the result of an action that's happening in my computer. And it's, you know, firing off at like, who knows how fast those speeds are through the cables that lead into my screen. So
and that's the perfect transcription of reality, that what you're actually talking about, us moving right now, is actually something that's happening in the core fundamental base physics of reality.
This is wild. So let me ask you this before you know, we start landing this hot air balloon. If I have my reality, let's just say we disagreed on something, right? Let's just say I said, no, Monopoly never had a monocle. And you're like, yes, he did. And we're both communicating. Are you in my reality? Am I in your reality? Or did our realities converge into becoming one? And we just have, you know, we both have our own memory of that. And if that's the case, then that means I brought my memory into your reality. And
that's why I actually believe it's dimensional drift. Because if I started in a reality here and you started in a reality here, and I'm drifting this way and you're drifting this way, and we converge at this point, and I'm like, no, the Monopoly man has a monocle. You're like, no, he doesn't. And you're still partly in your reality where he didn't have a monocle. And now I'm out of my reality. There you go. That's how that exists.
So then did we just create a new reality by even having that conversation?
No, that reality's always existed. It's always been there. Remember, there's no such thing as nothing. There is no new realities. They always all existed.
Oh, it's so crazy, bro.
But then also, here's the other key point to that. If everything has always existed and always will exist and nothing has never existed, that means that when you die, what happens?
You still exist, just we don't understand where.
There you go.
Our God is good, man.
Yeah.
Our God is good. He's created this reality for us that we call life in the pursuit, right, of the truth. You know, how do we, if you're someone like myself that subscribes to I believe in God, you know, we're in pursuit to live a life that we enjoy stuff we haven't experienced. Maybe we create life in the process, but the ultimate goal is, you know, we want to find a way to get to our creator. And it just, I love these conversations. And I know some people, they panic. They think it's anti-God. I don't think it's anti-God because, like I said, I believe in God. I believe in my creator. And I do know that the institution of the world, man, humanity, you know, the devil, whoever you want to cast blame on, but they have hidden the truth from us. You know, we're told what books to read if you want to understand scripture. We're told what books to read if you want to understand science. We're told what books to read if you want to understand math and all these things. Like we're told all that stuff. And and here's the thing, in those books has to be some semblance of truth, because lie cannot survive on just a lie. It has to be mixed in with truth. That's how propaganda works. And so I think this is what brings so much power to the word discernment, because the more, and I know this from, going from combat to doing police work, trusting that discernment. Some people call it your sixth sense. Some people call it the spidey sense. Some people call it a guardian angel, like whatever word you want to identify that thing. The more that something happens and you trust, that spidey sense, that discernment, and then it saves you, or something good happens because you trusted it, you build confidence in it. And I think it's like every other skill out there, you can hone that skill. You can start to perfect it. You can start to where it's not a rarity. It's something that you can act upon every day. Like the more you use it, right? It's a skill set. And I feel like that's why they're constantly attacking discernment. If you create enough lies in the world, then you muddy up. I guess it's like, to use the computer. Your computer only has so much RAM, right? And the more stuff you put on it, the slower it starts to respond, because you have all this stuff that's eating up your RAM, right? But if you go and you clear your cache and you get rid of all these files on your desktop and all that, it starts operating really fast again. Well, if we can figure a way to get rid of all the lies that they've told us, all the propaganda they told us, then we should be able to think more with more clarity and faster. And then what does that uncover if we accomplish that? And I think that's an individual story for everybody out there. But I've enjoyed this conversation, man.
So before we end, though, you said you believe in God, and I want to get back to this ipsum teinosis real quick, okay? So in Hebrew, there is a prefix called the, all right? And it means to join together two concepts or ideas. And a lot of our language, the English language, is Germanic and Latin, right, derived, and there is some proto Hebrew in there. And the idea of "ve" is really, really old, but it means to conjoin together. Okay. Now, you said you believe in God, right? Okay. Let me show you why that's wrong. This is the word "believe," right?
Right.
But "they" conjoins two ideas. What are the two ideas that are joined here?
Be, lie, and "ve."
Be and lie. Be means the what?
Be,
become.
Exist.
Exist in
the lie.
Exist in the lie. So the word "believe," broken down in our brain, remember, words are very powerful. In our brains is to believe within the lie. So when you say "I believe in God," what you're actually saying is, I don't have any proof or verification or evidence. I don't know of what it is, but I believe it because of what I've been told, what I've read, or what I understand. Make sense?
I'm tracking.
Okay. So ipsum teinosis, it was written at the entrance to the temple of the Oracle of Delphi, right? In the movie The Matrix, you see ipsum teinosis written over the Oracle when Neo goes to visit her. Now, this phrase comes about from Socrates, and he called it the most important phrase in all humanity. And let me explain why. I can't know you. I can't get inside your head. I can't feel your feelings. I can't know your thoughts. I can't see or perceive the world the way you do. But yet, we can communicate. We can like each other. But that likability, that relationship that we develop, that inner exchange between us, what that actually is that there's ways that you're communicating that are oscillatory, vibratory, resonant, right? Ideas go into language comes out and oscillates in me with meaning. And then what happens is I have a development within myself. I have a physical, a mental, emotional, and spiritual development. And all of those exist at various different levels, right? You have a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual development within yourself. And so the expressions that you're putting out there are representations of those levels of development. So when we communicate, the resonance that you're putting out there is oscillating with things that I understand within myself at my level of development. And that brings about a relationship of likability. And so
All right,
the
I'm tracking.
reason that we have this relationship to where we can communicate and we like each other is because we know each other at a deeper level. What does that mean? Is we know each other in the context of how we know ourselves. In other words, you can never know anybody unless you truly know yourself, or you can only know somebody to the level at which you know yourself, right? So think about it like this: is a
Damn, that was
that is deep. You can only know somebody else to the level that you know yourself, right?
And so let me just jump in here for a second, because this is what I used to explain to people in my career. I use law enforcement a lot, right? That was a large portion of my life that I've lived. When I would stop somebody, right? Pedestrian check or traffic stop, and I make contact with this person, I knew within the first, and I shit you not, bro, you're gonna think I'm crazy. I knew within the first 3 to 5 seconds if I was dealing with a good person or a bad person. Now, I might not have known what they did, but I knew I'm dealing with a good person or a bad person, and you have to hone that skill as a cop because your life depends on it. That dictates your level of escalation to protect yourself or the community or your partners, whatever the scenario is. But I knew, and the more consistently accurate you got with that, the better you got at it. And like I said, they may have not even said anything. You're just coming up to the window and you see the facial expression. Then yeah, body language speaks. But there were times where somebody visually looked good, they smiled, but I knew this ain't a good person. This person's bad. And ultimately,
Right.
he was
You had
fine.
a deeper interconnected relationship with themselves, which they probably weren't even aware of. Now, going back to the same idea, you can only know somebody as well as you know yourself, because the relationship is actually this inner exchange of resonance, of vibration between you and that person. Now, you said you believe in God, right?
Right.
And that's believing. That's be the lie. Be the lie. I don't believe in anything. I know things. I understand things. I have relationships with things. I know God. I don't believe in God. I know God. Reason being is because I have a relationship with God.
I like that.
Now, think about this, though. And you ready for this one? Because this is why Socrates said this is the most important aspiration of any human being, is to know yourself. Because you can only know somebody else as well as you know yourself, which means if you have a relationship with God, you can only know God as well as you know yourself.
The thing that I like about what you said, there's the relationship part. My dad told me this, and I've shared this before. I might even shared it, with you on one of our shows. But one of the things my dad told me, and probably around my high school years, is because I remember I was thinking he was weird at first, but he's asking me, about Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, historical figures. And he's like, you know these guys, right? I'm like, no. And he's like, well, you studied them in books. You watched the movies about them. Like, you know these guys. You have a relation with these guys, or the relationship part didn't come yet. He's like, you know them. The point being, what he was getting to is just because you read the Bible doesn't mean that you have what he was getting with was a relationship with God. Just because you go to church. And what he was communicating to me is this, like, reading the Bible, watching movies, and studying. That's not how you get to know God. You have to have a relationship with him.
Yep.
You have to talk. And so when you were talking about relationship right now being part of the why, I just thought that was spectacular. I really like that.
Yeah, but the truth in the matter is that you can only know God, only have an extent of a relationship as well as you know yourself. So if you don't know yourself, if I ask you, who are you? And all you give me is, I'm a man of integrity and courage. And I was a combat Marine veteran and I was a police officer. That's all you can tell me about yourself. You don't know yourself. I'm not going to ask you the question, but I'm telling you right now, if that's all you can tell me about yourself is the past things that you've accomplished and the things that you identify with this world, you don't know yourself.
No, we'd be here forever if you wanted me to tell you who I am. It wouldn't stop, bro.
That's right. Well, that's what I'm saying is when the imagination begins to kick in, that is the key to realizing who you are. It's also the door to having a relationship with God. I'll just leave that there. We're good.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You know, one of the thoughts you gave me, and we can save it for another show, is when I recall a memory of someone else and I have joy from that memory, am I making that person exist again in my memory, in my moment? Because I'm creating real feelings, I'm creating real emotions, you know, grandma, grandpa, you know, however you want to look at it. You know, I just find it interesting. I have 2 Rumble rants that came in, and then we can do our last ads. So, and then I'll see if I think I got a super chat or one of us got a super
You got
chat.
2?
2 Rumble rants. Yeah.
I got a few. All right.
$10 Rumble rant from Crossroads 45. Hey, Alpha. I live in Rupa Valley, Riverside County. Just left work. Red light is on the top. With the big old smiling emoji. What's up, neighbor? Rupa Valley.
California's just fucked up. That's the only reason.
I'm telling you, I know I'm not crazy, bro. I know I'm not crazy. $10 from Rabid Badger 456. Awesome show as usual. Thank you for that, Rabid Badger 456. And one that came in again right here from Crossroads 45. $5 Rumble rant. Hi again. According to Siri, the Monopoly man does not wear a monocle. It is a misconception. I thought he did. You're not wrong, Crossroads. He did. He did have a monocle. Love all the shows you guys do. And then here's a super chat from Lisa Kennedy, S3K, $20 super chat. Thank you guys for all your hard work. But as for the rift in MAGA, it's noise, not signal. The noise is waking people up. God will use all things for good. It's definitely a combination of things. There's definitely noise there. There's definitely a filtration process. And you got to shed weight to grow sometimes. But thank you for that super chat, Lisa. Go ahead, Josh.
All right. I got 5 Rumble rants that came in. True Deplorable, $20 Rumble rant. I learned about 20 and Back in Time service is the secret space program from the documentary Above Majestic, co-producer by Jordan Sather. We actually asked him to come on this week. Y'all should watch and then invite Jordan on the show. Well, Jordan actually has had multiple invites to our shows. Maybe one day he'll come on. Come on, Jordan. Maybe you guys should hit up Jordan and say, you got to do a show with Josh and Alpha. Then he probably would. Barber's Lines Matter, Nate over there, $5 Rumble rant. What is the voice in your head and why does it narrate every move you make and sometimes questions the decisions you make? Good question, Nate. Is it you? Is it some animalistic processy that is like happening within your brain? Do you question it? Is it outside of you? Is it God? I don't know. $2 Rumble rant, Cousin Vinny 1. When we understand the matrix, we are maneuvered by words and symbols. We gain power in the management of our desires. Spot on. Good job, Cousin Vinny. Calandry, $10 Rumble rant. Josh, I think we are soulmates, or at least connect in another life. Well, I appreciate that. And I can't tell you how many people have actually said that to me in my life. And I'll tell you, there's a theory that I have out there called spaceship theory, and I'll tell it in just 1 second after I get this last Rumble rant, and it'll blow your mind because then you'll be like, oh my God, that's actually reality. Ricky I-63, $20 Rumble rant. You gave me chills, Alpha. My 3rd day at work after Academy, I almost had to make the ultimate decision. So wild you had that experience. It's a commonality in law enforcement.
It was very wild, man.
Yep. So I have a theory out there called spaceship.
And I was a baby. I was what, 25 years old. I was a baby, man. Yeah.
So I have a theory out there, and this is kind of my theory that's kind of brought together for a few different things, but it's called spaceship theory. And in spaceship theory, imagine that humanity far in the future, our planet's destroyed and there's only 10,000 of us left, and we get on a spaceship and we start to find a new home, and we have an AI operating the spaceship, and it's flying throughout the galaxy trying to find us a new home. And while we're waiting, we're in cryogenic sleep. but our consciousness is linked up into an AI-generated computer world. And the first few AI-generated computer worlds, they crashed. They don't work out. They were perfect utopias, high advanced civilization and technology, but it just didn't work out. Well, the AI recorrected it and figured out that, look, these 10,000 people, you can't just continuously put them together in the same construct over and over and over again. You have to give some fluff in between. So what they did is the AI began generating non-participatory characters, NPCs, millions upon millions of them. And so what you have is this construct in this AI world where there's 10,000 real people and then millions, if not billions, of NPCs. And what you find out happens is that these real people keep on running into each other. I know you from somewhere. You look so familiar. Dude, I feel like we're soulmates. And the reason is because you're the only real people in the simulation and you're recognizing each other.
Holy smokes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the show tonight, do us a solid, smash the thumb, hit the heart, and more importantly, visit our episode sponsor, Good Brew. If you joined late, he was at the front end of the show. Shared some amazing knowledge. You'll see it down in the description. On my show, you'll see it down in the description of Josh's show, and you've seen it scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Good Brew, and that's brew, BRU.com/alpha or goodbrew.com/redpill. You know, support the people that support our show. It allows us to keep our content free. Mind blown, man.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Blown.
Well,
So,
if they start tuning in every Thursday, it's going to be more and more like this.
if you guys got ideas, go in the comments on my show or Josh's show and let us know conversations you'd like to have in the future. And listen, anything you want to plug in there, pyramids, you know, whatever. Just if you got a curiosity, put it in there, and we'll start logging them down and in our notebook to have conversations. If there's people out there from other shows that have some of these concepts and you want us to give them an invite, we'll do our best to try to connect with those people, and maybe we can bring them on here for some wild conversations. But other than that, brother, you got anything coming up that you want to let everybody know about?
Tomorrow night, just a regular show, and then my private Zoom that I do Q&A with all of my audience members. You just got to be a premium subscriber on any of our channels. If you go to redpills.tv and you go to the top, you'll see a premium tab. You click that premium tab and you'll find anywhere that you can subscribe. Tomorrow after our shows about 9 p.m. Central, I'll be jumping on there for a live Q&A. And maybe I'll drag a few of the guys from the round table over there too. We'll see what happens.
Good times, you guys. I'll catch you guys on the next one. God bless and Semper Fi.
When the lies go global, legends go live. A ghost in the feed. They rewrite what you saw, then they tell you believe. They sell you a savior, they stage you a fight, keep you divided while they move at night. But your man book screen like glass in the storm. Saw the cover behind the chaos, saw the shape of the swarm. When the deep turns darker and the truth feels gone, from the fire, the jagged the dawn. You can't fake this kind of vision. You can't pretend this kind of hate. For the cage is built in solid, for the life they love to take. So let it rise, let it roll, let the whole damn system shake. Overwatch, the guardian, say it loud. Let the whole world hear. Digital soldiers, last protect the baby sharp, mind like a blade, intel unmatched. She's a trap in the shade, buys a clip, pulls the whole way down. Turns whispers into blues, turns panic into ground. The Guardian Marie Ford, she got 4 hands. Tactical operator ran the hardest backlane from rifles to microphone. Same old, same fight. Now the mission's on the air and the target's in sight. Let them copy your words, let them cosplay your pain. Hope Protector wants the title, but they can't stand the rain. Cause legends don't burn, legends don't break. They turn plaster in the flame. Overwatch, the Guardian, say loud, let the whole world hear. Digital soldiers, last protectors where the cowards hide. They appear the storm, the truth. They hit like thunder, never disappear. Some call them watchers, some call them heroes, but the world gon' know their name right here. Your phone screens, and in the shadows where the real war breathe. They don't chase clout, but chase the network. They don't play nice, they break the script. Star from the flag, glory in the fight. Stripes in the blood, humble in the price. Matrix shattered, veil torn through. When the watchers move, the darkness moves too. So if you're still awake,